Hey, wait, can we do a spin? It's important to enjoy the small things in life. After watching, you're going to get some tips to help you next time you're rolling and some super interesting principles to think about. The nice thing about principles is when it's so principle-like, when it's so general, it applies to a lot of different positions. So even if you're not super technical and in deep, then it'll make sense. Like you'll be rolling and you're like, oh, wait a minute, like, let me just try this. So yeah, so let's get into it.
Hello, Amanda. I want to play a game.
There was a Pareto that was completed from competitions, and it was said that this Uchimata, what she's doing right here, which is a takedown when you have one leg in between theirs, this Uchimata was done as a counter to many single legs. And look at this. So I'm thinking maybe if I shelve her leg, then I would have a chance of going in her leftward direction. So it's really interesting when you look at this setup, you see if I would have pushed her over her foot, how I had that going differently in my head. But it's just interesting when you see how it's all based upon direction. And typically, if you have a throw going one way, you can have another technique paired to go in the opposite direction. So here, if I could take her backward, but she could also do an osotogari. If you're looking at techniques, think to yourself, okay, well, if they resist it in this direction, what would be a technique that I could pair with this technique that I could do sequentially? So you could ask your instructor, hey, like, what's a good move to add to this if they resist it? Not resist it, not resist it with a counter, but just blatantly try to go in the opposite direction of where I'm trying to throw them. Now, what's really cool here is this is textbook. When you do an Uchimata like she did, if you don't have control of that far arm, they're going to post it on the ground so they don't go face first into the ground. From there, you can get control of their head and do a snap down to go into, any game from front headlock. So this is great stuff, Steph. Now the counter to a front headlock or guillotine is to double leg, and of course the key principle here is, do you see how her left knee, she's trying to insert it so that she can regain guard, and I am fighting tooth and nail to make sure that doesn't happen. And look how she has head and arm control over on me. This is key because when I use the wall to basically try to step over to get mount, I can't get above her knee and get to mount because of this head and arm control. And it's super interesting. You're gonna see later on how this head and arm control is used to do sweeps and then to also escape from bottom positions. If you watch my previous video, you'll see a white belt do it. They go to the same school together, Precision Jiu-Jitsu. So yeah, this next little gem is how a top lock is more than just a triangle setup. Okay, look at this. This is beautiful. So do you see how she has a collar grip? She has a cross collar grip. So I am using my left hand to control her right arm by posting on her bicep and trying to get inside position. That way I'm defending against a straight up collar choke. and look where she puts her right foot in order to climb higher up my back. And this is regardless of whether or not an arm is, did you see that? Did you see how when you use your foot on their hip to get this high, to get a top lock, it doesn't matter if one arm is in and one arm is out. Once you have this top lock, you can start attacking the near side arm attack game from a top lock, even if it's not one in one, even if they have both arms in. And sometimes, you know, you have that little T-Rex arm and you can still triangle choke them if they have their little other arm and they have one arm in and their other arm's like T-Rexing. It actually helps the choke. So that's just super interesting how playing with that top lock can open up so much game for you than just, you know, I always thought it was like an intermediary step towards getting a triangle. I didn't realize how big of a branch it was and how much game can stem off of it. Next, let's cover the art of maintaining top position. So for your viewing pleasure, let's look at this here. So do you see where her arm is? They have an escape at their gym where they basically, do you see how she's cupping my head? And then they bridge and roll, and you basically go over their sternum on the other side. If you watched my last video, you know this. Now, let's look to see how I'm defending this and how you can think about this principle next time you're rolling to try to defend stuff. So what I want you to think about is the transitions between top positions, counterbalancing, and then changing the angle in order to defend. So this is an example of counterbalancing. So I'm sticking my legs out far in order to put more weight to avoid going over her torso. And now what I'm doing is I'm making an angle to the north-south position. That way the weight distribution is not where it needs to be in order to flip me. You know, it's like trying to flip an egg, but it falls off half of the spatula. So here, one key thing is, this will help you escape, is do you see how my goal is to get her back pinned to the ground and she's trying to get up on one shoulder. How to get hooks into a tight turtle. So here I wasn't able to get my hooks in time, and she got her head higher than mine, which is a principle. Whoever has a higher head is winning the fight. Now look at this. My turtle is tight AF, okay? Not many people can get in my turtle. We're still talking about jiu-jitsu. So I want you to look at her knee, and I want you to see how she transitions from, it's really a matter of centimeters here. So she gets a knee in, she gets a cross face, and she could even keep that cross face, and she's wedging her knee further and further in, and here it is. Look at that. I even brought my knees in because I could feel it coming. And look at the transition between where her knee was to where her foot ended up being. Like, this is such a beautiful transition to go from wedging a knee in to then stepping in to get hooks. So she stood up in order to get the ballerina toes wedged in there to get a hook. This is so beautiful. And how did she get a knee in to begin with, right? That's the question. Because look, her knee isn't in. Her knee isn't in right now. Like, but look where her hand is. So she makes an angle, right? Pushes me to the side. Right here, nothing is in, nothing is in. She puts her weight on my hips, hips on my hips. That opens up enough to get her hand in, her hand post, her right hand in. And that's what opened up the door to then get her knee in. Was that hand post served as like a smaller wedge, and just a little bit of leverage, you know what I mean? And then you can start driving like an axe pick. Next, we have how to reduce getting swept. This is huge, okay? This is really big. I actually learned this, I think I was at the end of my blue belt when I learned this. So typically, do you see how I am tripoded up? This tripod position, typically you'll see it when you're trying to pass half guard in order to increase pressure. The tripod, was a staple of my pressure passing game until I realized it left a big opening to get swept. So here, I'm tripoded up, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to get swept. And do you see how I tried to lower my center of gravity, but it was too late? So tripoding up leaves a lot of room for people to get hooks in, and also you have such a high center of gravity when you are in this tripoded position that it leaves a pretty big opening for sweeps. So if you find yourself getting swept a lot, look to see where your hips are in relation to the ground, and try getting your hips lower to the ground without loading your hips onto theirs. That's another key tip. So yeah, this is cool because she put her foot to the ground in order to do a bridge and roll, and pendulum her leg out in order to get that momentum. Now here, I think this is my favorite part of the entire video. Okay, so here's also a side note. I mean, anytime you can get your legs between theirs, your legs in between them and you, it's a win. And also, what I really love doing is anytime they are in side control, if I can step over their leg and get a hold of their leg and put it in between mine. Right now, I am in deep half guard, and I'm going for a deep half guard sweep. So I sweep, I roll up on a single, and she immediately attacks a guillotine. And I'm like, well, I guess I should probably address this guillotine before I try to stand up with her leg, because if you have a single leg, guillotine, you can get guillotine very easily when you have a single leg. They can guillotine and stomp the foot to the ground, and you're basically, guillotining yourself at this point. Okay. This is my favorite part. Wait, hold on. Look at this, okay. So you would think that like, why is this a back take segment? So she has my arm, and she is about to Kimura grip my arm. And we'll go over this right after you see what happens. Just when you think she doesn't have a chance and it's game over, boom. It's like a monster coming up from the depths. It's like Crystal Lake. All right, two principles here that's super important. One is elbow slip. So do you see how she has this Kimura grip? And this is with any type of Kimura grip, Kimura trap, anything. Do you see where my elbow is? I have to slip my elbow just 1 inch between that little crack between her two hands. Just a little slip into that crack and you are free. And that's for arm bars, that's for Kimura grips. The elbow slip, if you play with the elbow slip, you will realize that just moving your elbow 1 inch, you have escaped and they don't know it yet because it's such a small movement. So think about your elbow positioning and how you can get your elbow just on like the inside of the thigh, or if it's a Kimura trap, just like on the inside of their elbow pit. You can, if you play with that, you can secure a really good inside position using your elbow. Your elbow basically acts as a frame and you can pull your arm out. And with that, see the back, you can take the back, like climbing the back. There is a video that I shot. I was rolling with Daniel Mola when I was editing. I was like, holy crap, climbing the back. Like I used to rock climb and it's literally like, if you can see the little gap in their collar, you can use that as a legit like grip and lunge for it and use that to pull yourself up onto their back from any position. So if you ever have any experience like rock climbing, like it's literally like that's a hold and you just like, you just went for it, you know, just on site. Yeah, so, you know, next time you roll, try that. Try to envision, if you're rolling in a gi, try to envision if you can see their back and you can see a little gap in their collar, between the back of their neck and their collar, like dynamically go for it. And it's amazing what, like I've never done that before. That was the first time like that thought came to me while I was rolling. I was like, wait a minute, I can see that. Maybe I can just, you know, Hail Mary attempt it. So yeah, that's what happened there. So try it next time. Back take. Here's a technique called helping your partner get their hair tie out of their hair. But yeah, all good stuff. All right, so thank you so much for watching. It's good seeing you. I'm gonna order a big box of cookies and go to bed early and train tomorrow. All right, until next time, bye.